Good good evening, my dear friends. Hope you are doing well. और आज हम एक ऐसे राइटर को लेने जा रहे हैं जो कि इंग्लिश लिटरेचर का महानतम राइटर है, जॉन कीट्स। और जितने भी एग्जाम होते हैं उसमें जॉन कीट्स पे क्वेश्चन जरूर आता है। ही इज प्रिस्क्राइब्ड एवरीवेयर and he is that he is Matthew Arnold, another Victorian poet and critic, says that he is next to Shakespeare. You see, this is very important line. He is next to Shakespeare. उन्होंने कहा कि जॉन कीट्स शेक्सपियर के बराबर है। और बेसिकली यदि आप पेपर देंगे तो उसमें जॉन कीट्स पे क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं, निश्चित आएंगे ही। और कुछ जॉन कीट्स ने थियरी दिया था, जिसमें उसका पहला एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थियरी है, वो है निगेटिव कैपेबिलिटी। ये बहुत बड़ी बात है जिसको कि जॉन कीट्स ने ही किया, निगेटिव कैपेबिलिटी। जॉन कीट्स हैज अनदर अप्रोच। उन्होंने एक बहुत बड़ी बात कहा ब्यूटी इज ट्रूथ एंड ट्रूथ इज ब्यूटी। He says that beauty is truth and truth is beauty, that all we must know on this earth. तो जॉन कीट्स ने एक if you read John Keats, you find that that he is not only a poet, rather he is a philosopher. Most all the poets are philosophers, we can say, if I use the term of Philip Sidney. But John Keats is well known for his certain metaphysics or certain epistemology that he has propounded in his poetical theory, and one of them is his idea of negative capability. Then you have sensuousness. Another quality is sensuousness. Hellenistic approach. Negative capability, Hellenistic approach, beauty is truth and truth is beauty, that all we know on this earth, right? All we know on this earth, etc. And then we have Hellenistic approach. Hellenism means the love of Greek and Latin. तो ये सारी चीजों को आप ध्यान देंगे तो पढ़ेंगे। सेकंड थिंग, जो यूजीसी नेट पे क्वेश्चन उठेगा वो बेसिकली निगेटिव कैपेबिलिटी से उठना ही है। साथ ही साथ जॉन कीट्स राइटिंग, इफ यू सी जॉन कीट्स राइटिंग, जो कि पीजीटी में प्रिस्क्राइब्ड है, जीआईसी में है, यूजीसी नेट में तो है ही, और जहां जिस जगह का आप एग्जाम देंगे, चाहे वो किसी भी स्टेट का हो, कीट्स निश्चित पूछा जाएगा, क्योंकि जॉन कीट्स इज द very prominent poet of younger generation of romantic, romantic movement that began with the publication of lyrical ballads in 1798. Lyrical ballads, the famous book that was published by in collaboration with William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. And romanticism, I will take up a separate lecture on romanticism, जिसको आप पढ़ेंगे तो उसमें भी कुछ क्वेश्चन आएगा। But when you read John Keats, you find that John Keats is really a great poet. I admire John Keats. There are certain writers who are really great. For example, if you read D.H. Lawrence in 20th century literature, really very fine writer. D.H. Lawrence, for example, if you read William Shakespeare is obvious great writer. They are beyond of imagination, right? And that's how when you read John Keats, you find that he has written only 5 odes that are very prominent. They are great odes written in English literature. Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on Grecian Urn, Ode on Indolence, Ode on Melancholy, and Ode to Autumn. These are 5 odes, plus Hyperion and Endymion. These are 2 longer poems. He has also written Unlooking Chapman's Homer and 1 or 2 other poems. And then John Keats has written some of the letters addressed to his brother. John Keats has also very traumatic life. He lost his brother at the earlier. His brother died at the early age. He also lost his father probably, and he was in love with Fanny Browne. Also, that was failed. He could not succeed in his love. The girl whom he loved, finally, that was also not success. And then John Keats, basically, he was, that he was initially a doctor, apothecary. He started practicing as a doctor, and then later he wrote most of the poems. But could you believe that a writer who has written very minimally, is being compared with William Shakespeare? You know, what are the? How can you say that the writer who is who is being compared with William Shakespeare? On what ground, right? On what ground? On what ground? Because Shakespeare is a really great poet. Obviously, he is a great poet, and John Keats is being compared to Shakespeare. How can you compare Shakespeare with John Keats? All right. So that is another point. All right. So see that I am teaching John Keats, your favorite writer, and the poem that I am going to copy is A Thing of Beauty. So this is the introduction that I gave you about John Keats, and you find that John Keats had what we call this metaphysics, certain ideology, I should say, that he gave, and he says negative capability that poet should not be preacher, right? And that's why he says that William Shakespeare is a poet whom he blames to be egotistic sublime, egotistic, ego. That William Shakespeare, everywhere he says that I have done this, I have done this. There are too much subjectivity. This is that you find in William Wordsworth. Or if you read another great writer, for example, If you read St. Coleridge, also you find that in St. Coleridge there are what we call there is revolution, there is some political message, there is supernatural elements. And when you read P.V. Shelley, you find some radical thinking, right? The Battle of Waterloo and so many treaty, because he had close association with some political ideology. But if you read John Keats, you find a very a really very great sense of poem and great sense of art. That's what I want to tell you, that the real genius of a person lies in his artistic perception, that you find in Shakespeare. Each word, each line is really very beautiful, a really very phenomena. That's why John Keats I admire. No politics, no ideology, no thinking, no self, purely objectivity. And that this is the basic point that John Keats argues in his theory of negative capability, where he says that a person should negate his or her personality. We should not reach any final conclusion. We should be in uncertainty, because the world is a bizarre place. How can we pass any judgment upon anything? It is beyond our imagination. We cannot pass anything into anyone. Everything must be respected, because to pass the judgment, to be judgmental, or to pass any order is something that is beyond our imagination, because this is a difficult task. How can we be argumentative? There is a very fine book by fantastic book by Amartya Sen, Argumentative India. But how can we argue? Because see that we cannot pass any judgment upon anyone. Just enjoy the object and enjoy the object. And that's why this is negative capability. He says that a person should not pass any, one should not be judgmental, because we should not be judgmental. We should not pass the judgment upon anything. Rather, we should live in uncertainty. We should live in what we call in doubt. We should not pass any judgment, right? We should not say whether this is good or bad, this is moral or immoral, right? That you find in Wordsworth, Shelley, or other poem. Most of the neoclassical, they are highly judgmental, argumentative. That's why John Keats says that one must perceive the thing as they are. We should enjoy, each object has its value, right? You may have read a poem by Robert Frost in class 10th, Fire and Ice. No, Dust of Snow, where Robert Frost says that even a smaller thing has a larger implication for some time. So John Keats says that we must enjoy the object. Whatever is there is right, as Alexander Pope says. But the question is that how? And that's why Endymion is a poem which is the celebration of the beauty. And you know that in this poem, as you know that this poem is called a poetic romance. The poem is based on a Greek legend in which Endymion, a beautiful young shepherd and poet who lived on Mount Latmus, had a vision of Cynthia, the moon goddess. He falls a shepherd, taking the subject from pastoral setting like Virgil's Eclogues. or this pastoral setting is another example of more romantic, because they set their poem on nature, beauty, grassland, meadow, tinter navy, like William Wordsworth very famous poem. 3 years he grew in sun and saw the nature shed a lovelier flower, or the rhyme of ancient mariner by S.T. Coleridge, Shelley's most of the poem, like for example Ode to the West Wind. So there is natural phenomena, and that's why the content of the poem is this poem is set what we call the poem is set in set in a set around the subject of a shepherd whose main work is to handle the animals, for example cattle, and he goes to a forest uh, where he can have his animals fed grass, etc. And then finally he falls in love with Cynthia, that is goddess moon, which is completely imaginary. This poem is, how can you love Cynthia, goddess moon? But Shepherd falls in love with Cynthia, and then he had a vision of Cynthia, and then when you fall in love with someone, you have the longing for that. You want to see, you want to sing. This is the quest of love. So finally this is a love poem also, because John Keats to some extent that could be autobiographical, because there is autobiography in romantic. You may have read Love Eldon Sense Mercy, where John Keats also some critics have conjectured that the lady of Love Eldon Sense Mercy is Fanny Browne herself. So that could be Fanny Browne also here, because the poem could be autobiographical. We can't deny the fact that this poem is autobiographical, but John Keats, he falls in love with Cynthia, and then he wanders in the forest, and in search of Cynthia, he wandered away through the forest and down under the sea. So this is the context, which is completely imaginary. That there is no reason, there is no argument that how can you fall in love with a Cynthia, goddess moon, a person, you are a person, you are shepherd. But John Keats, by using some Hellenistic approach, because Hellenism was very important figure for John Keats, you must keep this in mind, that you find in Ode on Grecian Urn or Hyperion, or there is a character Ruth in Ode to a Nightingale. So a lot of imagination, a lot of imagery that John Keats has he has taken from what we call this Greek background. So that is how the poem is set. And then Endymion, a shepherd, he sings a song. He sings a song. So that is the setting of a thing of beauty. And this is the opening line of Endymion, right? This is prescribed in class 12th. So that's why most of the applicants who are appearing for PGT, TGT, GIC, and for example in other states, because this is prescribed in CBSE also. Class 12th, Thing of Beauty, a very famous poem. I don't know whether the students of class 12th would understand John Keats the way he should be understood. There are two ways of teaching a poem. Either we can teach in a very rough way, the surface level by paraphrasing, or we should teach any poem into very deeper level. And when we enter into a very deeper level, then you find that then there is a beauty of a poem. Otherwise, to paraphrase and teach in a very surface level is not the enjoyment of poem plus poet, and that could be to some extent, I think, injustice to that poet, because John Keats think about this. So this is negative capability that John Keats says that if we want to perceive any art or anything, or we must keep in mind that there is to some extent beauty. Beauty is everywhere. Now that is another issue. So just let me and second thing is that whatever I am teaching you, just follow my teaching. That will help you in answering the question of what we call mains also, because today there the selection criteria has been entirely changed. Then there is a pre, but there is a mains, right? So in mains you will have to write descriptive answer, and if you want to write descriptive answer, what you will have to do is that you will have to read what we call you will have must sense of writing, deep knowledge of a subject, not at the surface level. So this is the basic argument that I gave you. So now, so just let me come to the poem directly. For example, let me come to the poem. So for example, before you read, that is the context of the lesson. So so what we find here, right? You know that so so that is what he says. He says that before you read, you find here that what pleasure does a beautiful thing give us? Are beautiful thing worth treasuring? Now this is another question, that if you read this, for example, what John Keats says, that how will we get beauty and how will we get pleasure? That is another question that John Keats says that if you want to attain pleasure, because this is the basic pursuit for human life, that is basic quest, that why do we do the work? What is the basic question for our life? And this is John Keats said that basic question for our life is to attain pleasure. We need enjoyment, we need happy life, and we need beauty at everywhere, right? See, so that's what John Keats says, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. And as I told you that John Keats says somewhere else, beauty is truth and truth is beauty. Now this is a line of Odar Graciener. So Graciener, now read Graciener. It is also very really interesting poem. So if you read this poem, then you find that what John Keats says. John Keats says that that we must keep beauty at everywhere, and that's why he says that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. He says that in life, if you want to attain enjoyment, or if you want to attain joy, then we must have a sense of beauty. But how? That is the question. And then because this poem could be understood at two levels. One, natural poem, because this is romantic. So as you know that in romantic tradition, nature is the main subject. You know that nature is everywhere, and that's how John Keats says that being a romantic, that nature is everywhere, natural poem, right? John Keats says that being like other romantic, that we should see enjoyment in nature, where we have flower, we have river, we have like other romantic. So here in this poem, John Keats, at the level of romantic poet, he gives certain he gives an idea that if you want to see beauty, we must see beauty in nature, because nature gives us beauty, and therefore there are so many natural things, like you have now point number first. Second thing is that, as it is usual in John Keats, that John Keats has Another, this is his interesting point, that John Keats says that in his poem that there is a comparison between two worlds. One is this earthly world, this corporeal world, and then there is a what we call epistemological world, celestial world. One, what we call corporeal world. This is called corporeal world, right? This world. And then second, what we call metaphysics, like John Donne. Or we can say celestial world. Celestial. Or what we call, this is called epiphemeral. E-P-H-E, epiphemeral world. Right? Or this is what? Celestial, teaching something that is beyond our imagination, something that is metaphysics. So, like Ode to a Nightingale, this poem also could be read as the poem where at one level there is a problem. And where is the problem? This is John Keats says that entire problem is not in the world of celestial, but the problem is in this materialistic world, the world where we are living. That is the main object of John Keats, that you find in Ode to a Nightingale and other poems also, कि सारा समस्या जो है इसी संसार में है. That is first thing. There is despondence, there is problem, there is danger, there is greed, hunger, treachery. All types of evils are in this earth. Point number first. Therefore, we are suffering. But what we gain? We don't find happiness. It is very difficult to find happiness. That is point number first. Second, John Keats says that there is another world, that is celestial world, where you find complete enjoyment. Where you find complete enjoyment. But enjoyment in what sense? And how? Because there is beauty. And how do we find beauty? The point is this, that is what John Keats says, that if we have sense of satisfaction, because we are not satisfied, the root cause of all problem is the sense of nothingness. हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हमारे पास ये नहीं है. Always there is a lacuna. There is something that we don't have. We don't have satisfaction. We are demanding every day. We have not this, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. This is called negativity. But John Keats, and this is the problem that is inherent in our society. You know, most of they are billionaire, they are millionaire, they have lot of money, they have a lot of establishment, they have a lot of, if I use Jane Austen's term, pole of utility. Despite of all the facts that they have money, they have power, they have property, they are not happy. Why? Because they don't have a sense of satisfaction. Now, that is another thing. Second thing is this. John Keats says that this world is a bizarre world. As you say, this world is a bizarre world. Time. कितना समय हुआ? How will I mic? All right. So मैंने ये कहा, okay. So remember that this poem, see, this girl, see, smiling girl. Just I am teaching in English, purely English. Listen to. So there is one world that is called celestial world, because in introduction it took too much time, and then there is another world that is the earthly world, the world where we are living. And in John Keats, for example, in Hindi we call कि आत्मा एंड परमात्मा, स्वर्ग और नरक. और ऐसा कहा जाता है कि जो ये संसार है भवसागर है, यहाँ पे हम समस्या ही समस्या देखने आए हैं, इसीलिए भगवान राम की प्रार्थना करिए, भगवान कृष्ण की प्रार्थना करिए, पूजा करिए, पाठ करिए, जैसे एक प्रवचन होता है। और उस प्रवचन में हम जब जाके सुनते हैं, देखते हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द रिलीजियस डिस्कोर्स व्हाट वी फाइंड इज दैट कि एक ही संदेश मिलता है, एंड द मैसेज इज कि ये संसार ऐसा है, वो है, यहाँ पे है, सब कुछ निगेटिव ही है। बट द क्वेश्चन इज कि संसार को छोड़ के हम कहाँ जाएंगे? We cannot go anywhere. We will have to live here because there is no place for us. Where will we go and how will we go? तो जॉन कीट्स कहता है किसी संसार में रह करके, see जॉन कीट्स never opposes this earthly pleasure at all. This is what Shakespeare says, that we should enjoy that moment celebration is the crux of most of the poem that you find in Robert Browning, Andrea del Sarto, or other poems, The Last Ride Together, Pippa Passes, Robert Browning. So John Keats says that a thing of beauty, joy forever. This is very interesting line. John Keats says that a thing of beauty, joy forever. John Keats says that in life we want to attain enjoyment. जीवन का एक ही उद्देश्य है कि हमें पैसा मिले, हमें रुपया मिले। देखिए, इस पोएम को पढ़ाते समय काफी समय पे एक मुझे लाइन याद आता है हिंदी में, जिसे हम कहते हैं सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम। ये जो डिक्टम है, दिस इज वेरी ब्यूटिफुल, दिस इज एप्लीकेबल टू इंडियन एथॉस। इंडिया में इसको बहुत तरह से माना गया है कि सत्य है वही सुंदर है, सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम, राइट? एंड दिस इज व्हाट ही सेज, दैट सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम, एंड सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम मीन्स दैट there is a beauty at everywhere. We are कि हम जो सुंदर है वही सत्य है, वही शिव माने कल्याणकारी है। लिसन, जिस पोएम को पढ़ाते समय मैं आपको थोड़ा सा एक बात बता दूं कि जॉन कीट्स कहता है, और यही इस पोएम का मीनिंग है, जिसको आपने पढ़ लिया तो आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी कभी भी समझने के लिए। जॉन कीट्स ने कहा कि सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम, वो मानता है कि जो लाइफ में सत्य है वही सुंदर है, और चूंकि जो सत्य है वही सुंदर है, इसीलिए वही सत्य है। तो देखिए, तो जॉन कीट्स कहता है अ थिंग ऑफ ब्यूटी इज अ जॉय फॉर एवर। कहता है कि see that he says a thing of beauty, joy forever. Now its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us and asleep now, full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, now यहां तक हम पढ़ाते हैं। now so जैसे मैंने कहा कि भारत में एक जो इंडियन मेटाफिजिक्स है, उसमें कई बार कहा गया है सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम। जॉन कीट्स ने भी इसी को पकड़ा और उसने कहा ब्यूटी इज ट्रूथ, एंड ट्रूथ इज ब्यूटी, राइट? जॉन कीट्स ने कहा ब्यूटी इज ट्रूथ एंड ट्रूथ इज ब्यूटी। बट हाउ विल वी अचीव दिस सुंदर? सुंदरम मीन्स ब्यूटी, सत्यम मीन्स ट्रूथ, लेकिन व्हाट इज शिवम? शिवम मीन्स कल्याणकारी, वेलफेयर। कि जब सुंदरता तभी होगा जब किसी का कल्याण हो। यू नो, दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल वेलफेयर, कि हमें किसी का कल्याण करना है, हम किसी का नुकसान करके ब्यूटी नहीं पा सकते। सो दैट्स व्हाट जॉन कीट्स सेज, दैट इफ यू वांट टू अटेन ब्यूटी वी मस्ट हैव अ सेंस ऑफ वेलफेयर। क्या कहते हैं? कल्याणकारी स्टेट, कि किसी का कल्याण हो, नंबर वन। गुड सोसाइटी, रामराज, यूटोपिया, a world order, that's the book that Thomas More has written, a world order, plus also we have a sense of satisfaction, we must be satisfied. That's what she says, that we must be satisfied. We must have a sense of satisfaction, right? We should never pass into nothingness. We should never say that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right. तो कभी भी जीवन में हमें निगेटिविटी हमारे लाइफ में कभी नहीं आना चाहिए। और जो एक सेंस है हमारे पास कि हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हमारे पास ये नहीं है, इस चीज की कभी कमी पूरी नहीं होती। एंड दैट्स व्हाट ही सेज दैट दिस इज समथिंग, रिमेंबर दिस इज अ कंप्लीटली अ मेडिसिन। यह पोएम एक मेडिसिन है, एक दवा है। आजकल नींद नहीं आ रहा है, हम सो नहीं पा रहे हैं, सोने की दवा खा रहे हैं, टेंशन में है, हाइपर टेंशन। समाज सुखी नहीं है, ये संसार भौतिक वाले प्रॉब्लम ही प्रॉब्लम है। पैसा है, रुपया है, प्रॉपर्टी है, घर है, एसी, गाड़ी, बंगला, सब कुछ है, क्या चाहिए, फिर भी सुख नहीं है। तो ये पोएम खोज रहा है, ये पोएम पढ़ने से हमें सुख आ जाता है। अब मैं एक देवानंद जी का गीत मुझे याद आ रहा है, इस पोएम को पढ़िएगा तो ये पोएम वही है जो देवानंद जी ने एक गीत में गाया था, उनके ऊपर फिल्म था कि मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। मैं पूरा पोएम याद नहीं है, मैं जरा इस पोएम को पढ़ता हूं अभी, और ये वास्तव में बहुत गजब पोएम है। तो यदि इस पोएम को आपने पढ़ लिया तो इस पोएम को पढ़ने के लिए आपको एक गाना जरूर सुनिएगा, बहुत अच्छा गाना है देवानंद जी का, रोमांटिक हीरो। रियली देवानंद जी वाज अ रोमांटिक हीरो, राइट? सो he says that this is very interesting. He says that मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। This is what he says, that कि लाइफ में हमें चले जाना है, राइट? और बाद में उन्होंने कहा कि हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया, राइट? जैसे आप इस गाने को देखेंगे, देवानंद जी घूम रहे हैं जंगल में, like this person as एंडमियान इज वॉन्डरिंग इन द फॉरेस्ट, राइट? सो देवानंद जी उस फिल्म में कह रहे हैं मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया। फिक्र मीन्स होता है व्हाट? फिक्र मीन्स प्रॉब्लम, टेंशन, हाइपर टेंशन। मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। अटल जी ने एक पोएम लिखा है, हार नहीं मानूंगा, हार नहीं मानूंगा, रार नहीं ठानूंगा, काल के कपाल पे लिखता मिटाता हूं, गीत नया गाता हूं, गीत नया गाता हूं। क्या अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी की पोएम है, कंप्लीटली रोमांटिक पोएम। एक इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में पीएचडी है, रोमांटिसिज्म इन द पोएट्री ऑफ अटल जी। सो यही जॉन कीट्स कहना चाहता है कि लाइफ में दुख तो है, लाजमी सी बात है भाई, इससे हम कहां भाग सकते हैं, बट जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। लाइफ में हमें चलते रहना है, लाइफ में हम रुक नहीं सकते। That's what Robert Frost says, that that he says that two roads diverge in a yellow wood and I have promised to move because मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। because हमें लाइफ में चलना है, और the problem is that in this life there is problem, always you will have to confront with problem. Lord Rama also confronted problem. He was given the banishment for 14 years. So happened in the case of Lord Krishna. When he was born, he was born in prison. Then his father accompanied, his father dropped him to another home. Entire problem. तो इसीलिए जॉन कीट्स भी कहता है कि हमें दुख है, दुख को में स्वीकार करना चाहिए। We should see happiness in suffering. इसीलिए सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम भगवान शंकर का नाम आया। क्यों आया? बिकॉज लॉर्ड शिवा ने संसार के जितने दुख थे उनमें ब्यूटी देखा। भगवान शंकर ने कभी भी सुख की तरफ हाथ नहीं बढ़ाया। सांप को गले लगाना, विष को पी जाना, हिमालय पर्वत पे रहना, श्मशान घाट का से श्रृंगार करना। इसीलिए सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम, जरा इस लाइन को कभी पढ़िएगा तो इस पोएम को समझिएगा, और देवानंद जी का गीत जरूर, इस गीत को जरूर सुनिएगा कि मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया और हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया। जितने भी फिक्र आए कोई बात नहीं, अरे जो हो गया सो हो गया, लाइफ में परेशानी तो है ही, और अरे फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया। धुआं मतलब कभी सोचा नहीं, नेवर थॉट अबाउट ऑल द प्रॉब्लम्स व्हाट हैपेंड। जो है कोई बात नहीं है, दुख आया उसको मैंने स्वीकार किया और सुख आया उसको स्वीकार किया। रिमेंबर हाउ जॉन कीट्स इज रियली वेरी वेरी फिलोसॉफिकल। इस पोएम को पढ़िएगा। मैंने कहा ना कि जॉन कीट्स को समझने के लिए सिंपल लेवल में समझने को तो मजा नहीं आएगा, एक तो रोमांटिक है ही, पर इसका मैसेज देखिए। जॉन कीट्स ने मैसेज नहीं दिया, लेकिन मैसेज देने के पहले कितना बढ़िया उसने कहा कि हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया। बर्बादियों का सोग मनाना फिजूल था। किस लिए हम परेशान हैं? नथिंगनेस, ये चीज हमारा चला गया, ये बर्बाद हो गया। भगवत गीता भगवान कृष्ण ने यही तो कहा। लॉर्ड कृष्णा सेज इन भगवत गीता दैट देयर इज नथिंग योर्स। क्या लेके आए थे? यू हैव यू आर यू व्हेन वी आर बोर्न वी केम नेकेड, और एंड वी विल गो वी विल हैव ओनली एक कफन मिलता है, श्राउड, एक्सेप्ट दिस वी वोंट हैव एनीथिंग। कुछ नहीं जाएगा, फिर भी हम परेशान हैं, हमारा है कुछ नहीं, राइट? तो व्हाई वी आर सो, व्हाई वी आर in a great problem? Why we have hypertension? Why do we think that कि ये मेरा नहीं है, ये मेरा नहीं है, right? This is John Keats says that it will never pass into nothingness. If we see beauty at one point, this is natural poem, तो नेचर को कंपेयर कर रहा है, but if you see the ultimate message of the poem incorporating with the line that John Keats has written in Ode on Grecian Urn or in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, or the beautiful song sung by Devanand, not Devanand but filmed on Devanand, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, बर्बादियों का सोग मनाना फिजूल था। दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम, हमारा नहीं, नथिंगनेस, हमारा नहीं, हमारा नुकसान हो गया। क्या है? मेरा कुछ नहीं था, बर्बादियों का जश्न मनाता चला गया। दिस इज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल लाइन। क्या गजब का पोयम है कि जो बर्बाद हो गया उसको भी मैं खुशी खुशी स्वीकार कर लिया। दिस इज अ थिंग ऑफ ब्यूटी। दैट्स व्हाट लॉर्ड रामा एक्सेप्टेड when he was banished for 14 years in jail in forest. He accepted it with great care, with great enthusiasm. प्रसन्नताम यान गताभिषेक तस्थान ममले बनवास दुखतः बुखाम्बुज श्री रघुनंदनस्ने सदासु सा मंजुल मंगल प्रदा। This is Lord Rama's gravity. Think about why John Keats is great. कहता है कि दुख है तो क्या हुआ? बर्बादियों का जश्न मनाता चला गया। बर्बाद भी हो गया, कोई बात नहीं। Think of beauty, joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us. कहाँ कहता है? प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है? Despite of despondence of the inhuman dearth, of noble nature, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways, in spite of all, सब कुछ है, प्रॉब्लम है। क्या प्रॉब्लम है? डिस्पोंडेंस है, इनह्यूमन डर्थ है, राइट? बर्बादियों का कमी है, हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हमारा नुकसान हो गया। देवानंद जी ने कहा नहीं, जो नुकसान हो गया उसमें भी हम ब्यूटी देखें। दिस इज अ थिंग ऑफ ब्यूटी, जॉय फॉरएवर। यही है रोमांटिक। रोमांटिक बनना बड़ा कठिन है, जिसका दिल इतना बड़ा हो कि चाहे सुख हो चाहे दुख हो, बर्बादियों का सोग मनाना फिजूल था, बर्बादियों का सोग मनाना फिजूल था, बर्बादियों का जश्न मनाता चला गया, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। जो मिल गया उसी को मुकद्दर समझ लिया। Whatever is written in our destiny, that's acceptable. Whatever is right. जो है उसी में खुशी है, मोमेंट सेलिब्रेशन। हमें बहुत नहीं चाहिए, दुख है वो भी एक्सेप्ट है, नमक रोटी है वो भी एक्सेप्ट है। हंगर, हमें लालच नहीं करना चाहिए, ग्रीड नहीं करना चाहिए, तब ब्यूटी नहीं आएगी। उन्होंने कहा जो मिल गया उसी को मुकद्दर समझ लिया, जो खो गया मैं उसको भुलाता चला गया। Whatever is last is last. जो खो गया उसको भुलाता चला गया, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, गम और खुशी में फर्क हो महसूस ना जहां। दिस इज भगवत गीता। गम है तो कोई बात नहीं है, खुशी है तो कोई बात नहीं, गम और खुशी में फर्क महसूस हो ना, गम और खुशी में फर्क ना महसूस हो जहां, मैं दिल को उस मुकाम पे लाता चला गया, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया। That is the thing of beauty, joy forever. This is the ultimate message of the great poet. That thing of beauty, joy forever. गम और खुशी में फर्क महसूस हो जा। That is the life. कभी खुशी कभी गम. We cannot escape from suffering, and that's what John Keats he has written in some of the letters. He says that how can we escape from suffering, because suffering is a part of life. That's what John Keats says, that when we taste a grape, it must be broken, right? If you want to taste, for example, an apple, it must be broken. This is called pariksha. This is called examination. Without difficulty, without suffering, we cannot get enjoyment. We cannot pass. We cannot achieve glory in our life. That will be visible in the poem as we proceed further. So he says, but John Keats says, a thing of beauty, joy forever, its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us and asleep. John Keats says that at one level, he is giving the example of some natural phenomena, but he says that if you want to understand anything, for example, if you want to understand if you want to get happiness, if you want to get beauty in our life, if you want to get what we call if you want to get beauty in our life, or if you want to get satisfaction in our life, or if you want to get a sweet dream or healthy life, and the first in that the important thing for us happy life is that we must have a sweet dream plus good plus a sound sleep, right? हमको अच्छी नींद आ गई, it keeps us a bower breathing, it gives us calm. So John Keats says at one point that where we will get all these things. He says that all these things, satisfaction, prosperity, sweet dream, good sleep, all these things we will get in the natural world, and that's why he is the natural poet. So that is a romantic poet. So at one point this poem could be understood as a romantic, but at another level, if we read at a thematic level, this poem could be understood the way that I mentioned you, the poem that I recited just, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया. The dictum, very epistemological dictum of Indian philosophy, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, or we can say that the Lord Rama's portrayal, that's that what that you have found in Tulsidas, that prasannatam yanagata abhisekta tatha mamle vanabasa dukkata mukhambhuja sri raghunandanasme sadastu sa manjul mangalaprada. That is what the character of Lord Rama, and that's how Lord Ram became very famous. So today I stop here, just I gave you the foreground, the background of the poem. In my next class, I'll finish this poem. Thank you.